gingerbread trend is really popular on Pottery Barn's website, and also on Anthropology's site, they have these really fun wreaths. Some of them have these houses on them. So I wanted to put those two trends together. I've been waiting for Dollar Tree to have out their Christmas village houses so I could do this next DIY. So I finally found them. So what you're gonna need for this DIY are some fun Christmas villages. You're also going to need some of their small trees, and I recommend getting them in multiple sizes. Now I'm gonna be putting all of these on a wreath. So I just bought a basic wreath at Hobby Lobby. Now with my wreath, I'm going to spread out all the branches so it looks nice and really fluffy for when I start putting items on my wreath. With your houses and your trees, I'm gonna spray those with the color Warm Caramel. Now this is personal preference. I wanted mine to look like gingerbread, but you could do any color that you want. I did want to add some snow elements. So on my trees, as well as my wreath, I'm going to spray this product called Snow. That's just gonna give me that appearance of snow. Now, if you've watched any of my other DIY videos, you've probably seen me add puff paint to gingerbread items, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do here. So I'm gonna be using some white puff paint. I'm just gonna be bringing out the details in these smaller houses. So I'm gonna outline the roof areas, and I'm gonna outline some of the windows and add snow to it. I didn't completely do each of these houses, but I just wanted to add enough detail to each of them. Next, you're going to let this dry. Then you're gonna place your houses around your wreath. I found that 5 to 6 houses was probably the right number for this wreath, and I'm just gonna simply hot glue them onto my wreath. Next, I wanted to add in variation of tree sizes. So I had about 4 different sizes. So I started with my larger trees and hot glued those on, and then I filled it in with the smaller ones. I think this wreath would look so cute up for the holidays, and here's how it looks on my door. I feel like I see vintage bells on all sorts of high-end sites, and they can be really pricey. I'm gonna show you how to make some large vintage bells that you can recreate with Dollar Tree items. What you wanna pick up are plastic glasses. These ones are the perfect shape. So I bought 3 of them. I'm probably only gonna use 2, but I didn't know how they would turn out. So I'm gonna start by putting a hole in the bottom. So just get a drill. You wanna put a hole that's big enough so that your string that you're gonna be using will fit through the hole. Now I'm gonna spray them black. I feel like that's the key when you're doing any kind of vintage gold look. You wanna start with a black spray paint because it really gives that dark aged look. Once the black spray paint has dried, I'm gonna come in with gold rub and buff. Now there's multiple colors of gold rub and buff. I'll link to my gold rub and buff down in the description box. I buy it on Amazon and I use it all the time for so many different crafts. If you don't have it, it's definitely worth picking up. So figure out which gold you wanna use. I like to put on a glove because this can kind of get all over your hands whenever you're doing this. I'm also going to be using some bells that I picked up from Dollar Tree. Right now I'll add rub and buff to the bells as well. Put as little or as much as you like, and if you're not happy with it, you can always go back in and add more. Let that dry completely, then it's time to assemble your bells. So what I like to do is use some twine. So I'm gonna get a long piece of twine and I'm going to tie a knot at the top. I'm gonna tie the knot 3 times so that it's gonna hold in place when I put it through my bell. I'm gonna push the twine through my cup and I'll pull it to the bottom. I want the bells to kind of hang down about an inch lower than my bell. So I'll loop it through one of the pieces of twine and then I will tie it off, making sure that it's hanging where I want it to be hanging. And then I'll cut off the excess twine. Now, one of the problems I had was I didn't take into account how to hang it. Once you pull the hanger, the bell's gonna go up. So what I decided to do was just put some hot glue into the bottom of my cup, let that dry, and that's gonna hold it in place. You can use these to decorate mantles, swag pieces, wreaths. They're so cute, and I love the way it turned out. I love the look of candy cane, and I wanted to try to recreate that look with these tea lights. So you're just going to need a couple of packs of tea lights at Dollar Tree. You're also going to need some washi tape. I bought this on Amazon. I will link it for you down below. What you're gonna do is place the washi tape onto your candle. And then I went through and cut an angle because I want it to kind of be at an angle all the way around. And then after I cut it at an angle, I removed the tape and put it back on so that the top edge met the top of my tape. And then I cut off the excess at the bottom. And I did this again around on my candle 3 more times. I wanted 4 pieces of washi tape on each of my candles. And I repeated this for all the candles. These look so great sitting out with like 6 to 10. It makes such a cute statement. I also think these would be great sitting out on your holiday table. If you love the look of those big wrap presents, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, here's a way you can do it yourself. First, you're going to need a box, an Amazon box or something you have around your house. A square box is going to be best for this project. Tape the box completely shut. Then you're going to need some tinsel. Now the tinsel I'm using is from Hobby Lobby. It's a lot thicker than most tinsels. You can use Dollar Tree tinsel, but you're just going to need to get more of it. I'm going to start at the base and hot glue my tinsel. I also went with red because I want it to be really bold, and red is definitely my color that I'm going for this year in my living room. I'm going to continue to wrap the tinsel around, hot gluing it in place. Once I get it back to the start, I'm just going to overlap it. And then once I get to that top edge, I'm just gonna hot glue it to the corner. I'll continue to wrap it and hot glue on the top of the box. Next, you need some ribbon to finish this off. So I'm gonna be using a green velvet ribbon. You wanna make sure that you pick up a ribbon that has wire in it. It's gonna be a lot easier for forming your bow. Start with putting the green ribbon underneath the bottom of your present, and you'll wrap it around the top and hot glue it in place. Now let's create a bow for the top of our present. So to do that, take your green ribbon. You're gonna figure out how long you want it to be. And you can just do that by kind of placing it on top of the box to see, how big you want it to be. I usually try to make it about 2 inches in from the outside of my present. You're just gonna wrap it around as many loops as you want. I want 3 loops on each side, so that's what I did. To hold the middle in place, I'm just gonna fold it in half. Then I'm gonna put a zip tie in the middle to hold it in place. Now from here, you wanna cut off the excess of your zip tie. I'm also gonna take a little piece of green ribbon and wrap it around my zip tie just to cover it so you don't see it. I'm gonna fan out all of my loops on my bow until I like the way it looks. Once I'm happy with it, I'll just hot glue the bow on the top of my present. And here's how it looks. It makes such a big statement and it's super cute. I have a cute ornament DIY that you could do with your kids or grandkids. It's really easy to do. You're just gonna need a few ingredients. You're gonna need baking soda, cornstarch, and water. So you're gonna need a pan. I'm using what I call my candle pan, which is what I use to heat up all of my wax for making candles. I'm gonna add in 2 cups of baking soda to my pan, 1 cup of cornstarch, and 1 1/4 cup of water. So you wanna mix everything well on medium heat. You wanna keep stirring it up until it thickens to about a dough consistency. Once it's at that consistency, you wanna remove it onto an area where you can roll it out. I put mine on some parchment paper, and put your dough down and let it cool for about 20 minutes. Once your dough is cool, you can come back in and roll it out. So just use a regular rolling pin and roll it out. Now for the fun part, you can use cookie cutters to cut out fun shapes. I did a gingerbread, of course, and this cute little mitten. Now to create the hole at the top, what you're gonna use is a straw. So take a straw and make a little hole at the top. These were so easy to cut out, and all you wanna do is let them sit out on a pan, drying for 24 hours. Once they're dry, they're completely ready to go. You can add string to them and add them to your tree. Now, if you wanted to take these even a step farther, you could paint them. So I think these would be fun to add watercolors or any of your acrylic paints. This next DIY would be perfect to sit out for the holidays, or you could also give it as a gift. I love to put together picture frames. I love having pictures of my family out in my home. So what you need to pick up is an 8x10 frame. I picked up this one at Dollar Tree. I think I like the black frames the most from Dollar Tree. I feel like they look the most high end. So I'm gonna start by removing all the contents. There was this piece of twine on there that I did have to pull out with some scissors and my wire cutters. But once I remove everything, I just picked up a piece of fabric that matched my decor. You could use any fabric, and you wanna cut out a square of your fabric that's about 2 inches longer than the backing piece. Then you're going to move the backing piece so you have it centered exactly where you want it to show on the front. Then you're gonna hot glue 2 sides down in the back. Now with the other 2 sides, what you're gonna do is pull in the corners, hot glue those in place, and then hot glue the edges. Then you can add it back to your frame, flip it over. Now I was just going to put the picture directly on there, but I felt like it needed a little bit more of a black mat. So I went in my craft room and pulled out some black cardstock, and I hot glued the 4 corners of my picture and put it on the black cardstock. And then I cut out the other 2 sides, trying to make it as even as possible. You could also use a cutting mat if you didn't trust yourself with the scissors. I hot glued the 4 corners of the black cardstock and placed it in the center of my frame. This frame is a perfect Pottery Barn dupe. If you can find a toilet brush cleaner and these wood blocks from Dollar Tree, I can show you how to make bottle brush trees. You're gonna remove the brush from the handle. Then you're going to take some wire cutters on one end, bend down one of the wires so you can't see it on one side. Then you're going to use your scissors to trim the brush so it's smaller at the top and gets larger towards the bottom. Next, I'm going to turn my attention to these wood blocks. I want to drill a hole in the center of the wood block about the same size as the wire for my bottle brushes. Make sure that your trees are going to fit into the wood block. Then I'm going to spray the bottle brushes a green color, but you could do any color you like. Let this dry completely. Now to create some faux snow, I'm going to mix plaster of Paris with water. Using a foam brush, I'm going to run that along the edge of my trees to create that appearance of snow. I'm going to add some plaster of Paris to the top of my wood blocks and again on the sides. Once everything dries, add your trees. I love how you can use this technique to customize trees for your home. You can make such cool ornaments using paint pour techniques. You guys know I love to paint pour. Of course, we had to do it with an ornament. Now with Dollar Tree ornaments, get a variety of sizes. I really like these white ones because I don't have to go ahead and spray paint them, but I just picked a variety of sizes. Now I have found the easiest way to do a paint pour on ornaments is to get a box, or if you had foam, you could use that, but a box is easier just to throw away, and we have a lot of these around our house. I also put paint skewers all across this box. Then I can place the ornaments into the paint skewers so the paint can easily drip down. So I took that box and placed it into my paint pour container so that everything could just drip down. Now, what colors am I gonna use? I'm gonna start off by using a paint pour medium. This isn't any color, but it helps to stretch and make the paints a little bit runnier. Then I wanted to go in with some greens. I also wanted like golds and neutral colors, but you could use any colors that you wanted in your decor. I'm gonna add all of those to a container. Once you have all your paints in a container, you just start by dripping them down. Now, I've never done this before, but I realized that as the paint was dripping down, it wasn't covering my entire ornament. So I did have to shift the ornaments a little bit to make sure I was able to cover the entire ornament. So you may have to move them around or maybe do 2 different coats with the paint pour. Now with my tops, I'm going to spray paint those a gold color. I did let the paint pours dry overnight and then I added the tops back in. You can style these on your tree or put them out in a grouping or in a bowl. Pinecone trees are great to decorate your home with every year. I think they look really high end, but they can be a little bit intimidating to DIY. So let me give you some of my best tips so you can recreate one in your home. Start with a foam wreath from Dollar Tree. Next, you're going to need some pine cones. Now, I find it best to get ones that are similar size. It just makes it a lot easier. They have pretty affordable ones at Hobby Lobby. I'm gonna get 2 bags of the medium size and 1 bag of the smaller pine cones. Next, we're going to start with the medium bag of pine cones and hot glue those to our wreath. Now we're gonna follow a pattern here. So we're going to hot glue 3 pine cones, 1 on top and 2 on each side of the wreath. Then we're going to do 2 pine cones on the next row. We'll come back in and do 3 pine cones on the following row. So you can see I'm kind of going 3, 2, 3, 2. So that's my pattern here. As I'm going, I may kind of mix that up just a little bit depending on where I need to add in a pine cone, but that's pretty much the pattern you want to do all the way around your wreath. Just hot gluing, holding in place till everything is dry. And you may have to add in additional hot glue if you feel like a pine cone isn't totally secure. Follow this around your entire wreath until you get all of your medium pine cones on. From there, you're gonna see some holes where you can see the green foam piece in. That's where you wanna come in with your smaller pine cones. So you're gonna add some hot glue to the bottom of your pine cone and put it wherever you see an opening. Now, once you're completely covered with pine cones, let's add a bow. I like to use wire ribbon when I'm creating bows, and I like kind of like the 2.5 to 3 inch ribbon. I'm gonna be using this pretty velvet ribbon, and I'll tie a bow. And I wait to cut off the tails until I have my bow in place. I'll cut off the tails and hot glue it to the bottom of my pine cone wreath. Fluff the ribbon and hang in your home. Did you guys see these stockings that I picked up on my last Dollar Tree shopping trip? If you missed that video, I'll link it for you down in the description box. In that video, I found these in the Dollar Tree Plus section. They're like a faux fur stocking. They had them in white, a gray, and a red. And I thought they were a pretty good deal for only $3. I wanted to take them a step further and personalize them. Another item I found were these really cute skate ornaments, so I picked up 2 of those. Now, to personalize them, I went into the Cricut design space. I put my girl's name in the text and figured out what font that I wanted to use. Then I sent it to print on my Cricut Explore 3, and I'm gonna be using a white permanent vinyl to cut it out with. After I cut it out, I weeded it out and I went to transfer it onto some faux leather that I had in my craft room. Now, this was just scrap faux leather I had. If you don't have any, I'll put a link down below to some that I've used in the past that you could pick up for this project. Now, as I was transferring my vinyl to the faux leather, it wasn't wanting to come off. So in that situation, what I typically do is I will pull it off and just stick it on myself. Now, this was a little bit harder to do because the letters were small and I kind of had to move them around and figure out exactly how they go. But honestly, in my opinion, doing this is easier than having to recut. I don't like having to recut, so I figured out a way to put them on there, but they were just having trouble sticking to my faux leather. Sometimes that happens whenever you're putting vinyl onto things. But after I got them completely stuck down, I wanted to cut my faux leather pieces so that they were even and about the same size. So I trimmed them down. Next, I wanted to add the ornament to my stocking, so I just added a little bit of hot glue underneath that top flap area and hot glued it in place. And then I put my label across the front. I love how affordable these personalized stockings were, and here's how they turned out. Let's make a holiday candy jar. Now, this is very similar to one that I made in the fall, just with Christmas colors. You're gonna need 2 glass jars. I think the round one is really key here, and then this other jar is perfect. You can find those in the glassware at Dollar Tree. You're also going to need a wood piece and some sort of handle. This was one that I already had in my craft room. So I'm gonna start with the wood piece. I'm gonna cut off the little hanger, and I'm gonna fill the hole with wood filler. Once the wood filler dries, I'm gonna sand it down so it's flat with the wood piece. I'm gonna spray the base bowl and the wood piece with 2 coats of a white spray paint on both sides. I'm gonna spray my knob red. Once everything has a chance to dry, I'm gonna take the wood base and turn it upside down. I'm gonna put E6000 on the bottom of my clear jar, and I'll place it on the wood base. You wanna let this sit and dry overnight. I'm also going to add some E6000 to my handle and put that on top of the wood piece. Once they have a chance to dry, you can fill this up with your favorite holiday candy. I'm gonna put some peppermints in, and this would be so cute sitting out in your kitchen for the holidays. Have you ever wanted to create large ornaments to set out in your decor? I'm gonna show you how to put them together with Dollar Tree supplies. Pick up 2 glass bowls from Dollar Tree and some Dollar Tree mason jar lids. I'm gonna take E6000 and put it along the top of one of my bowls. Then I'll take the other glass bowl and set it directly on top of where the E6000 was. Then to create a little topper for my ornament, I'm gonna pull off a mason jar lid. I'll glue the part that kind of comes off of the mason jar lid onto the part that screws on, and then I'll add E6000 to the bottom of my lid and place it onto the glass bowl. With E6000, you wanna let this sit overnight. After it had a chance to dry, I wanted to spray paint it. I decided to go with 2 different colors of gold. One was more of a copper color and the other was more of a metallic traditional gold. I'll spray 2 coats on both of the ornaments. And here's how they look in my decor. Do you love the look of Pottery Barn's light up branches? If so, let me show you how to put this look together for less. So you're going to buy or gather some inexpensive branches. Next, spray them in a metallic color. You could either go silver or gold. For this DIY, I'm going with a silver color. I'll spray them on one side, let that dry, flip them over, and spray them on the other side. Next, you can use the common Dollar Tree vase that I use in so many of my DIYs. You're also going to need some snow filler from Dollar Tree. About 3 packages should work. I'm gonna start by putting in 2 packages of the snow filler. Then I'll place my sticks inside. Next, you're gonna get a box of these fairy lights off of Amazon. I love how small the lights are. They're perfect for adding to branches. Now, they aren't super long, so this box has quite a few fairy lights in there, but for this project, I'm gonna use 4 sets. I'll unravel all the fairy lights and I'll put the bases in the back behind my branches. So you should have 4 bases. Then I'll start wrapping my fairy lights around the branches. You wanna add them as tightly as possible. You wanna put them so they're evenly spaced around your branches. After you have all your fairy lights in place, add a little bit more snow in just to cover up those bases. And here's how it looks all lit up. I was walking through Dollar Tree and I spotted these cones in the toy section. I don't know about you, but they look like trees to me, so we're gonna be creating a tree DIY with these. I wanted to take off the bottom edge. I'm gonna use scissors and kind of bend them back to cut off that bottom edge. We're gonna be making 2 trees, so everything I do, I'm gonna do on the second tree. Next, I'll take the orange cone and wrap it with Dollar Tree white poster board. I'm gonna draw a line where I need to cut on the poster board. I'll wrap the other side of the poster board and mark it with a pencil. Then I'll cut out the poster board that I'm gonna wrap around my cone. I'll hot glue one edge, wrap it up, and hot glue the other edge. Hold it in place till it's dry. If there's any excess poster board at the bottom, you can cut that off as well. You're gonna repeat all these steps to make your second cone. Next, I'm gonna use some red glitter ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'll start by tucking it in at the top of one of my cones. I'll wrap it around. I'm not gonna hot glue anything in place until I figure out where I want the ribbon to be. and then I'll wrap it around the bottom and hot glue it on the inside of the cone. I'll do the same thing with my second tree, making sure I wrap it around the same amount of time. So I have both of the cones next to each other so I can see how much I should wrap it around, and I'll hot glue in the same places. And here's how these cone trees look styled in my home. I saw these votive candles on Pottery Barn's website and definitely thought I could recreate these with Dollar Tree items. So you want to pick up a variety of glass containers. Now Dollar Tree has a pretty big selection, so these are the 5 containers I picked up. I also got some raised embossed stickers. Now these are over in the craft section and they have quite a variety. So I started by just figuring out which stickers I wanted to put on each vase. Then came the fun part, which was basically just deciding how I wanted to add the stickers on. So I did each one a little bit different. With my larger one, I put some going one way and the other. I just tried to vary the way I did it on each of my containers. Next, I'm going to spray all the containers with a white spray paint. So you want to make sure you cover those stickers really well. So do 2 coats on the bottom side, flip them over, and do another 2 coats on the top. Once that has a chance to dry, I wanted to bring out all of that texture with some Rub and Buff. So you're gonna use Rub and Buff and any gold color, or you could use any silver, whatever color you like. Now, whenever you're adding the Rub and Buff, you want to do it very light-handed unless you want the Rub and Buff to be on the other white areas of your glass. If you're just wanting it to be on those raised areas, you want to go really light with your foam brush. And then I also made sure I put some Rub and Buff on the top edge of all my glasses. Honestly, I kind of varied it depending on the glass. When you put them together in a grouping, I think they look really cute. And if you were going with neutral decor for the holidays, I think this would be perfect. If you love gingerbread decor, it is definitely your year. I was scrolling on Pottery Barn's website and I saw so many different gingerbread decor items. So it's definitely on trend this year. So we need to try to recreate this trend with Dollar Tree items. When I was at Dollar Tree, I picked up this wood piece in the Dollar Tree Plus section that I thought would be perfect for recreating Pottery Barn houses. I'm gonna start by removing the trees on the end. Next, I'm going to spray paint 2 coats on the back and the front with the color Warm Caramel. This is a great gingerbread color. You can pick it up at Walmart or most stores. Once the spray paint has a chance to completely dry, I'm gonna add on some white puff paint. And the reason the puff paint works really well is it mimics that look of icing. So it does a great job of giving a similar texture. So if you don't know exactly how you wanna do this, go online and look for some different gingerbread houses to give yourself some inspiration. You're gonna start at the top and work your way down. That way you don't get your hand in any of your designs. Now, as you're putting your designs onto your houses, the one tip I can give you is try to keep your hand steady and do an even flow. That's going to help the line look a lot more consistent. But have fun with it, do different lines, different textures, try out different things. This is the creative part, and I think the part that as crafters, we love doing so much. So once you're done with your design, you can add some snow to the bottom with your puff paint. I added some heavy puff paint on the bottom, and then on the front where it was kind of hanging down, I just put a little bit more puff paint so it looked like the snow was falling down. Let this dry overnight, and here's how it looks styled in my decor. Do you have an aged mirror, or maybe you're wondering what you could do with an old mirror around your house that you don't use anymore? Maybe try this Christmas wall art idea. The mirror I'm gonna be using is one I picked up from the thrift store for around $6. It already was starting to have a little bit of age to it. Now the frame, I wanted it to be a bit darker, so I picked out one of my darker stain colors. Using my foam brush, I'll add it to the frame, wiping off any excess with a paper towel. Now I'm gonna put a link down below to the decals I used. I picked up a couple of these black tree decals off of Amazon. I'm gonna use 3 different trees, although there were several different decals in this one pack, and I'll place the trees onto my mirror. Now I wanted to give it a little bit more age, so I found a black sample paint that I had, and I'm going to dip my paintbrush into the black paint, then I'll dab it on my table, and then along the outside edge, I'm just going to dot the paint around my edge. I also did it around the trees. I really wasn't sure how much paint I was gonna put on, and I just kind of kept adding until I felt like it had that worn, aged look that I was going for. I really love how neutral this decor piece is, so in my home, I decided to style it with some cream trees. One of my favorite things to do while I'm shopping at Dollar Tree is find items and figure out a way to repurpose them. So when I was in the Christmas aisle, I saw these wreaths, and you may look at these and think, okay, these aren't very substantial, they're not gonna make a great wreath, but I thought, what if we use these as charger plates underneath our holiday dinnerware? So that's what I'm gonna do with these. What you wanna do is with each of your wreaths, you wanna start by moving all of the greenery pieces to the outside. There's not that much greenery on here, so you're gonna need all that you can get. As I was doing this, I was noticing a lot of the wreaths were kind of bent up, so I pulled the circles out to make them as nice of a circle as possible. I did this with all 4 of the greenery wreaths. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of white spray paint. I wanted to give it that cool snow texture, so I'm gonna lightly spray on the outside with white spray paint. The key here is to not add too much spray paint because you want your greenery to still show through. Now, I thought I was gonna be able to get away with just that, but I wanted it to be a little bit more vibrant, look a little bit more like snow, so I did have some snow spray paint that I added in as well. But have fun with these, add whatever color you want. You could do silver or gold, depending on your decor style. And then I'll just place these underneath my holiday plates. Let me show you a quick wall art piece that you could do with these black frames. So you're gonna start with 3 of these black frames. You're also going to need to pick up some white ornaments that look similar but have a little bit of variation. Now I'm gonna start by spray painting the entire picture frame. I'm gonna spray paint the back as well as the front. You don't wanna take anything out. I'm gonna spray paint the back and the front with 2 coats of a matte white spray paint. Once those dry, I'm going to use my gold Rub and Buff. I feel like I'm using the Rub and Buff a lot in this video, so it's definitely one, if you're gonna do these DIYs, you're gonna wanna pick up. Again, I'll link it for you down below, but I'm gonna use the gold Rub and Buff to place around the corners. I also thought this would look great with like the black Rub and Buff, or if you don't have Rub and Buff, you could use any color of paint along the edges. Let that dry, and then you're gonna hot glue your ornaments in the middle. Now, I went with white ornaments. This would also be cute if you had like 3 like colorful ornaments. Go with, you know, reds, greens, whatever you're gonna use in your home, and just hot glue them about the same height on each of your frames. And they look so great sitting out in a grouping. You can put them on your shelf or hang them on your wall. Another new item that I picked up at Dollar Tree are these white lanterns. I got 3 of the white. I thought they were super cute. Now I love the white. I thought about painting them, but I was like, snowflakes should be white. So I didn't want to paint them. I kept them white. I did want to kind of add to them. So one of the items I picked up was this candle holder. This is new in the floral section. If you guys see this one, pick it up. It's really cute. I did spray paint the candle holder with 2 coats of a black spray paint. And then another item I picked up in the Dollar Tree Plus section was this red velvet ribbon. Now I went with the darker colored red because when I've been searching on high-end sites, this darker colored red seems to be on trend. So it's definitely a fun one to pick up and try this year. With one of my white lanterns, I'm going to tie a bow with the velvet ribbon. And one trick I like to do is keep my tails nice and long. Then I can come in at the end and trim everything down. On my 2 pieces on the side, I didn't want to add a bow. I thought maybe that would be too much. So what I decided to do instead was just tie off a piece and have one long tail. So I just tied it in a knot and kept one long tail on either side. I also added in some greenery sprigs that I had just to give a little bit of greenery to the lanterns. And then I'm gonna place the middle one on top of the candle holder. Then I trimmed everything up. So I trimmed the pieces at an angle on my bow. And then I also trimmed at an angle the pieces on the side and made sure the 2 side pieces were as even as possible. And here's how it looks styled in my decor. If you're having trouble finding some of the Christmas items out at Dollar Tree, I'm gonna show you how to make a Christmas item with just regular items from Dollar Tree. So what you're gonna need to pick up are 8 wood pieces that are a smaller size, and then I picked up 1 that's a little bit of a larger size. I'm gonna show you how to put together a large tree without using any screws. If you have a cutting mat, get it out at this point because that'll really help you with measuring out your pieces. So you're gonna start with one of your sides of your tree. And I want to measure them out about 4 inches apart. So I'm just going to, every 4 inches, put a new piece on, and I'm going to use wood glue to hold the pieces in place. And I'm going to add 4 pieces to one side. So I'm going to repeat that on my second side. I'm going to make them the exact same size. Now, as you're doing this, you may have to use something to kind of hold everything in place. I had a bunch of paint bottles that I used to kind of hold it in place. Once you have them put together, put all of your paint bottles around there and hold everything in place and let it dry overnight. The next day, you're gonna come back and assemble your tree. So to do that, you're gonna put some hot glue at the top of your wood pieces and push the 2 tops together. Then you're gonna put some hot glue on the bottom, and then with that longer board, you're gonna place that as your base. Kind of move it around till you're happy with where it's situated, and then again, use paint or whatever you have to prop it up and let it dry overnight. That's all you have to do, and if you have any excess glue, you can always sand that off, but here's how this wood tree turned out. Last year I created this reindeer from a Dollar Tree reindeer that I sprayed black, and I added some gold rub and buff, but I couldn't resist doing it again this year. So I found these cute little penguins. They have them in white, gold, and silver, which are really cute as is, but if you want it to be black, you can just spray it with 2 coats of a matte black spray paint. I think it's best to spray the underside of the penguin and the top of the penguin just to make sure you get all the areas. Once that dries, you can add on rub and buff. I just wanted a little bit of gold rub and buff. I will link to rub and buff down below if you're needing any of it, but just use a foam brush and wipe it onto its nose and onto its feet and wings. These little figurines look so cute sitting out. I want to show you a way that you can add a little bit of flair to a wreath. Maybe you have a natural wreath and you want kind of a fun wreath hanger. So what you're going to need for this is some sort of ornaments. I'm going to be using these 2 snowflakes. I cut off half of one of my snowflakes. and then I'm gonna hot glue them together. Then I spray painted this snowflake with 2 coats of a white spray paint. Now you're going to need some ribbon. I had this gold ribbon that I picked up. Wire ribbon works best if you can get wire ribbon. And I would say about 3 inches widthwise is the best. And I'm just gonna cut off a really long piece and then I'll hot glue my ornament to this ribbon. Now to hang this up, I love hanging up a wreath using a clear command hook. I think that works really well. And you're gonna place your ribbon on your clear command hook so that your ornament is about maybe like 2 or 3 inches from the top. Then you're going to take your wreath and put it underneath your ribbon and you're gonna tie it right underneath the ribbon. Do like a double knot. Then you can pull the ribbon down in the front. If you want the ribbon to be hanging long, you definitely can do that. Just cut it off a little bit lower. Or if you want it short, you can do that as well. But I think this is a cute wreath hanger and it definitely dresses up any wreath. Aged ornaments are really popular and they can sell for a ton on high-end sites. But the great thing is you can make them for so much less with Dollar Tree items. So for this DIY, we're gonna get a variety of sizes in our ornaments. I'm gonna remove the tops to all the ornaments. Then I'm going to gather some leftover paint. I think the key whenever you're creating ornaments like this is using common household colors. So for my ornaments, I'm gonna be using leftover paint samples in terracotta. I have a green, a black, and a cream color. I'm gonna paint 1 coat of paint on all of my ornaments, doing about 2 ornaments in each color. And I'm gonna let those dry completely. If you're wondering the best way to dry ornaments, oftentimes I like to take a paint skewer and put the ornament on top. You can set it in a cup or stick it in a cardboard box, but that's a great way to let your ornament dry if you've painted it. Next, to create that aged look, we're gonna be using plaster of Paris. So I have a cup of the plaster, a cup of water, and I'm going to take a brush, dip it into the water, then I'll dip it into the plaster, and then I'm going to dab it around my ornament. I'll use a sponge to press the plaster into my ornament. Again, I'll let these sit out, but with the plaster, depending on how much of the color underneath you want to show through, add as little or as much as you'd like. For the tops, I wanted these to be a little bit aged, so I decided to go with a black rub and buff color, and I'm gonna use a foam brush. I'll add that to the top of my ornaments. Once everything's dry, I'll add the toppers back on. And then I'm gonna style them in a wood bowl. I'll also add in some Dollar Tree greenery pieces that you can pick up in the Christmas section. If you're wondering what to do with all these cute Christmas plates that you see at Dollar Tree, here is an option for you. Get one of the clear bowls that they have at Dollar Tree. They have these out all year round. And then in the base of the bowl, you can put fun decorative Christmas items. Change this up however you want it. What I'm gonna be doing is adding some faux snow to the bottom. Then I'm gonna be adding in some red Dollar Tree ornaments. I'll put E6000 around the top of the bowl, and then I'll place on one of these cute Christmas plates. You can have these sitting out for the holidays as cookies or any treats you may have. If you've watched any of my YouTube videos, you've probably seen the paint pour wall art in my living room that I created a few years back. I love them and they're not going anywhere, but I have an idea to create another paint pour piece for the holidays. If you're like me, you don't want to spend a lot of money on a wall art piece that's only going to be displayed in your home a few months out of the year. That is why we're going to DIY. I picked up two 30 by 40 canvases from Hobby Lobby. I find Hobby Lobby to have the best deal on these larger canvases. I had a few ideas on what type of design I wanted to do on these. At first I thought maybe I would make a wreath, and then I thought let's do a tree. Now I was a little nervous to just go for it and do a tree on these big canvases, so I had a smaller canvas that I practiced on first. I added some white paint and paint pour medium together, put it on my smaller canvas because you want to completely cover your canvas before you start your piece. Then I added paint in greens and neutrals and black. Then using my blow dryer, I moved the paint around. After I did this paint pour piece, I really didn't like the shape of the trees. I was wanting them to be a little bit thinner, so I decided whenever I moved to the larger piece, I was going to change up the shape of the trees. I do think it's a good idea to practice first before you do a larger wall art piece. Then I moved on to my larger wall art piece, and again, I'm gonna do it the exact same way. Whenever you're doing a paint pour, you need to put down a solid color. I usually like to do white, but you could do any other color. So I'm gonna mix a paint pouring medium with a white color paint, and I'll put it on the top of my canvas. I had to mix this up several times to get enough paint on there. Then I'm going to move the canvas around so that every inch of my canvas, even the sides, is covered with that paint. So on my canvas, I want to create 3 trees. So I'm going to start on one side doing one tree at a time. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a vertical line with my paint pour paints. I'm using greens, blacks, and neutral colors to achieve this look. Once I have that straight line on, I'm going to be using my blow dryer. You gotta be really careful with your blow dryer because this can get out of hand really fast. I'm actually having my blow dryer very vertical with this canvas, and I'm just lightly pushing the paint out until I get to the end of that line. Take a step back, look at it. If you feel like you need to add a little bit more of the blow dryer to move the paint, do that. You can also add additional paint. If you're not liking the colors, you can put in additional paint to get more of whatever color you're going for. As I was doing this, I kind of realized which color I wanted to put down first, so it was on the underside. I was hoping to get a lot of the green coming through. Now I'm going to move to my larger tree, and to do that, I'm just going to make the line a little bit longer. That's gonna make a variation in height on my trees. I'll add all the paint on, and then I'll use my blow dryer to spread the paint out. Now in between my 2 trees, I'm going to put a smaller one in the middle. Again, same steps. However high I want my tree is how much paint I will put up to the line. And then I'll use the blow dryer on that paint. Now I have a second canvas to make, and I wanted these 2 canvases to be mirror images of each other. Started the exact same way, mixing paint pour medium with white paint, putting that on my canvas. I'll move it around to cover the entire canvas. Since I wanted them to be a mirror image, I put both of my prints next to each other so that while I was creating them, I was making the trees the exact same height. It was okay if they weren't perfect, they weren't exactly the same, but I wanted to try my best to make them look similar because they're gonna be on either side of my fireplace. Whenever you're doing paint pour, you have to let it sit and dry at least overnight. Sometimes I will let it dry 2 days, but once it's completely dry, you can hang it up in your home. And I have to say, I think these are gonna be perfect for the holiday season. This time of year, you can find all different types of ornaments from Dollar Tree. I love these flat ornaments. I wanted to add some tissue paper to them, and I went on Amazon just because they had a wider selection of vintage papers. So I got this big pack, pulled out a couple that I wanted to use. I'm gonna cut out a square to add and wrap around my ornament. I'll add Mod Podge with a foam brush to one side of my ornament. I'll place the tissue paper down. I'll add Mod Podge to the other side and wrap the tissue paper around. You may need to add 2 layers of the tissue paper. On one of my ornaments I did, so I just cut out another square and wrapped that around the same way, adding the Mod Podge on. Now for my second ornament, I used a different colored tissue paper and it gave a completely different look. Now with Mod Podge, one of the things I've learned over the years is to let it dry for a day. So I put a paint skewer in it, set it in a cup to dry overnight. The next day I came back and added a completely new layer of Mod Podge on, and again, let it dry for another day. Now with the topper, what I'm gonna use is some gold rub and buff along the top edge of that. Once everything's dry, I'll put the topper back on and add a little bit of twine. And here's how it looks on my tree. If you're looking for DIY supplies, one of the sections you don't want to pass up are the gift bags. I find so many cool papers and textures in this section. So when I was walking by this gold gift bag, I had to pick it up. I loved the embossing, I loved the color, and I thought it would be great for a Christmas DIY. The only problem with this bag is it's a little small, so I knew whatever DIY I did, it had to be on the smaller scale. So I started by cutting the bag open to see how much of the paper I'd actually have to use. What I wanted to create was a cone tree. So I started how I would normally create my cone tree by wrapping them up, making one end smaller and the other end a little bit larger. Once I figured out how I wanted to wrap it to where I was getting the most embossed paper as possible, I cut it to size and hot glued it in place. Once I had it wrapped up like a cone, I did cut off the bottom. Now to save a step and have it stand up, I decided to use a Dollar Tree bottle brush tree. You can get these in the $1.25 section. I'm gonna take my cone tree and put it over the bottle brush tree. This actually fit perfectly. There was some of the bottle brush tree hanging out at the bottom, so I just tucked that in place. And it was a great way to have my cone tree stand up and I didn't have to recreate a base. I wanted to give you guys a quick DIY gift idea that you could do. Now, what you're gonna need for this are a pack of tea towels. You can buy these at most stores, and then you're also going to need some cookie cutters and some acrylic paint. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna fold out my tea towels. Next, I'm gonna be using my cookie cutters almost like stencils. So I'm gonna use red and green acrylic paint, and I'll put those out on a plate. And then I'm going to dip my cookie cutters into the plate, and then I'm going to place them onto my tea towel. Pull them straight up, dip it back in the paint, and put it back on my tea towel. I'll continue to do this all the way across. Now, I created 4 different tea towels, and each time I tried something a little bit different. Maybe I did a couple of lines, maybe I did some that were red, some that were green. You can really have fun with this and make it your own. Now, if you wanted to give these as a set, you're just going to fold them up, place them on top of each other, and then get some large ribbon. Dollar Tree has out this red velvet ribbon right now. Tie it in a bow. It would be perfect for a hostess gift. For this next DIY, you're gonna need 3 glass vases from Dollar Tree, and you're also going to need 3 of their trees. They have so many different trees. Just make sure whatever tree you get, it's going to fit inside those glass vases. You're also going to need some glue. So I went with this clear glue because I didn't want any white residue. Now I'm gonna be adding glue to the outside of my vase, but before I do that, I'm going to be creating a little oval that you're gonna be able to see my tree through. So I just got out some painter's tape. I added painter's tape in the shape of an oval to the front of my glass. And I did this with all 3 of them, trying to make them as even as possible.
Whatever we do, we will be all right. These holiday ones.
Next, I'm going to use a foam brush to add on the glue to my jar.
It's just tonight come true.
And then I'll sprinkle faux snow around the edge of my glass jar. And I'll repeat this with all 3 of my jars.
Wanna be close to you. Hey.
Let the glue dry completely. Then you're going to remove the tape from the front. Place a little bit of snow at the bottom, and then add in your trees. How cute do these look in a grouping of 3?
I only wanna be close to you.
Now that Dollar Tree has this Dollar Tree Plus section, I find that they have multiple sizes of nutcrackers. I was able to find 3 different sizes. There was one that was $1.25, they had a $3 one, and a $5 one. So I got all 3 of them, and my goal was to spray them all the same color. So to do that, I had to remove any pieces like their hair or anything that wasn't going to spray paint well. Next, I spray painted them with a gold antique color. I ended up having to do 3 coats on all of the nutcrackers just to make sure I got every single area so they all looked uniform. I think these look so great in a line together. Let me know what you think of these nutcrackers. Sometimes I will show you guys things on this video that are hard to find at Dollar Tree, but these white ornaments are typically out early at Dollar Tree, so I'm hoping that you can find it at your store. I purchased one of these large white ornaments. I also picked up some gold leaf. They have this in like the Dollar Tree Plus section. To add the gold leaf to my white ornament, I'm going to add Mod Podge with a foam brush to the bottom half of the ornament. Then I'm going to take the gold leaf and press it onto my ornament. I'd never really used gold leaf before. This was interesting and fun to add on. The cool thing about the gold leaf is you can add on as much or as little as you like. Then I put it in a paint skewer and let it sit and dry overnight. Next day I came back and I added a top coat to my entire ornament to really lock that gold leaf in place so that when I hung it on my tree, it didn't go everywhere. The top to my ornament was silver, so I spray painted it with a gold color. Once everything had a chance to dry, I put the topper back on. I added some floral wire to hang it on my tree. When I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I noticed this new line of dinner plates. They're in this like white and black pattern, really cute. I didn't pick up any of the dinner plates, but I did find this tray and thought I could use it in my Christmas decor. So along with the tray, I'm also going to be using 4 wooden blocks. I'll spray paint with a matte black spray paint the 4 wooden blocks. After they're dry, I'm gonna put E6000 on the top of the blocks and then I'll put them onto my tray. Let this dry overnight and then you can style them with your Christmas decor. Have you guys seen this snowflake ornament at Dollar Tree? I feel like it's new this year. I love the texture on it. I thought it'd be perfect for putting together a gingerbread snowflake ornament. I'm gonna start by cutting off the twine that they have around the ornament. Next, I'm gonna be using a piece of felt. It was kind of a brown caramel felt color that I'm gonna be using, and I'll place the snowflake on top. I'm gonna cut around my felt, trying to make each of my cuts as similar every time I go around the felt. And I'm just gonna hold this in place as I'm cutting it out. Then I'll attach my snowflake to my felt by putting hot glue in the center. I'll also put a little bit of hot glue around each of the edges. Now to hang it on my tree, I'm gonna take one of my screwdrivers and poke it through the felt. And then I'll loop through a piece of twine. And here's how it turned out. I didn't realize in this video how many Pottery Barn items I was going to be recreating, but I found this snowman on their website. It's so cute, and as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly how to recreate it with Dollar Tree items. So in one of my last Dollar Tree shopping trips, I found these large ornaments. Hopefully you guys can find them at your store as well. But the cool thing about these ornaments is they have a flat bottom, so you can set them up on a tabletop. So I got one of those. I also am going to be using another small ornament. Really, you could use any ornament for this, just find a smaller one. So the first thing you have to do with that larger ornament is figure out how to cut off that top portion. So I started to use my wire cutters, but that wasn't going really that great. What I decided to use was my hacksaw, and I just sawed off that top piece. Next, I'm going to attach the smaller ornament with E6000 to my larger ornament. Now next I had to figure out how to make a nose. So to do this, I grabbed some old scrap poster board and I started to kind of roll it up like I would with a cone tree. So I rolled it up tightly, I hot glued it in place, cut off any excess, and then I just figured out how long I wanted the nose to be, and then I cut off a little bit at the back and then hot glued it in place. Okay, now we have to decorate our snowman. I have these wood half circle beads. I'll link them for you down below. I picked them up off of Amazon, and I have to tell you, I use them in so many different crafts and you get quite a few of them. But I'm gonna use these with the E6000 to make my eyes as well as my buttons. I will tell you, after I put them on, they started to kind of slide down. I realized that I should have combined some hot glue with that E6000. I went back and added a tiny bit of hot glue. So when you're putting these on, make sure you do both. That E6000 is gonna give you that long-lasting bond, but that hot glue is that immediate bond you need so you can move on with your project. I'm gonna spray paint it with a matte white spray paint. I was thinking this snowman would look really cool with some texture, so I was gonna add some snow or some stone spray, but as I was putting this spray paint on, for some reason my spray paint was kind of messed up, so it was coming out a little bit clumpy. In the end, it gave me this really cool texture. I do think if you were recreating this, it may be fun to add like a snow or a stone spray paint to the top. You could even do like a glitter spray paint for a little bit of texture. Just have fun with it. After I completely spray painted it, I'll show you how I styled it in my home. You guys know that I love buying hardback books from the thrift store to use in my decor. This time of year, you can buy Christmas books. Most of these books will be in the traditional colors, the reds, the whites, and the greens, so they're perfect to sit out with any of your decor. So you could leave these books the way they are, but I am going to write the word joy in a red Sharpie. So on the front half of my books, I just added a letter to each of the pages. You can style these upright or you could lay them on their side with decor. I love the traditional colors in these books and they make such a difference in your decorating. I love to DIY ornaments. In years past, I've had entire videos where I'm just doing DIYs with ornaments. So I had to do another one in this video. You're going to need a spool of the berries that you can pick up at Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna start by wrapping up the berries so that they're a little bit tighter than they are naturally on that spool. As I'm wrapping them up, I'm going to twist them around each other so that they hold in place without having to add in any glue. I'll continue to wrap them up until I run out, and once I get to the end, I will twist the backing around my berries. I'm gonna spray each side with a metallic gold spray paint. I'll spray one side, let that dry, flip it over, and then spray the other side. Before it has a chance to dry on my second side, I'm going to add in a little bit of that glittery snow, and I'll let that dry. To hang it, I'm going to add a red ribbon, and I'll tie it at the top, cut off any excess, and here's how it looks on my tree. I love the look of greenery vases sitting out for the holidays, but sometimes Dollar Tree doesn't have really long greenery. So for this next DIY, I did pick up some greenery from Hobby Lobby. I'm gonna be using a glass thrifted vase, but you could use any vase that you had around your house. Since it is glass, I'm gonna start off by putting in some faux snow. I used about 5 bags of Dollar Tree faux snow. Then I'm gonna put in my greenery pieces. Since it's the holidays, you can really add that glitter and ornaments, and I love to be a little bit glitzy this time of year. So I'm gonna be using a pack of gold and white ornaments from Dollar Tree. And instead of hanging them, since these branches are a lot smaller, I'm actually gonna hot glue them onto my branches. Now, if you didn't wanna do that, you could always hang them. You could also use wire to attach them if you wanted to reuse them. I'm gonna hot glue the ornaments onto my branches. Now, a tip here is you wanna go from the back side. That way you don't see the top of your ornament from the front side. So put the hot glue on the ornament topper and place it on the back side. Just hold it in place until it's dry. And then go to the front of your arrangement and kind of look where you need to add a few pieces here and there. But once you're happy with it, if you need to add any additional faux snow, you can do that as well. But how gorgeous is this sitting out on my coffee table? I saw these reindeer on Pottery Barn's website and thought I could maybe recreate them with some Dollar Tree items. While shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across these metal reindeer, so I picked up 3 of them. I'm gonna spray the reindeers with a white spray paint on the back and the front. To get the speckled look that I saw on the Pottery Barn reindeer, I'm going to add some sample terracotta paint that I had to a spray bottle. I'm also going to add in some water. I'll put the lid on the spray bottle and shake it up so it's a little bit watery. Next, I'm going to practice spraying on my table on my craft paper. Then when I'm ready, I'm going to spray it onto my reindeer. I realized that if the reindeer were flat, this worked a lot better so that the paint didn't run down. And here's how these neutral reindeer turned out. The look of mirror spray paint is very on trend, so I wanted to try to do a DIY where I incorporated that. So I picked up a new mirror spray paint that I'd never used before, and then I'm just gonna use some pine cones that I found walking around outside. I do love these, and every year I try to pick up several because I use them in so many different DIYs. So I'll place these pine cones on my spray paint turntable. This works great. I'll link it for you down below if you guys don't have one of these. And then I'm gonna spray 2 coats on one side. Once those dry, I'll spray 2 coats on the other side. I'm gonna style these in a bowl with a little bit of greenery. Now the bowl that I'm putting in, I actually picked up at the thrift store a few months ago. And to achieve the look on this bowl, I mixed some cream paint in with some Dollar Tree sand and painted the outside of the bowl. I think it gives a really great texture, and it's a bowl you can use year round. I styled the pine cones with a little bit of greenery, and here's how they turned out. So for this ornament, what I'm gonna be using are some acorn toppers. Now, I did buy these off of Amazon, so I will link them for you down below if you want to purchase them as well. And then I just used a stick from outside as my base. I'm gonna cut the end of my stick with a hacksaw so it has a nice flat edge. Then I'm gonna take one of my toppers and put it on the end and kind of determine how long I want them to be. I figured about 3 inches was good, but honestly for each of my mushrooms, I kind of measured them out, and I wanted them all to be different since this was a really natural look. So I sawed all of the sticks down so that they fit on the toppers. I felt like the colors of my toppers and my sticks were too similar. So what I did to correct that was I just used an ivory sample color that I had, and I lightly brushed that on my sticks. I felt like that really kind of enhanced the color of the sticks. Next, I'm gonna put some hot glue in my toppers and place the sticks inside. And then to hang them, I'm just gonna use a little bit of twine because I was going for that natural look, and tie that off, and I'll hot glue it on the top of my acorn toppers. And then you can hang them on your tree. If you're going for a natural look, these would look perfect in your home. I found these gorgeous marble trees on Crate & Barrel's website, but I wasn't into the price. So I'm gonna try to recreate them, and you'll have to let me know how I did. So I picked up these foam cone pieces, and I also ordered some marble paper. I feel like the marble paper is really important here. It's just a marble laminate that I got off of Amazon. So I'm gonna start by figuring out how long of a laminate piece that I need. So I'm just going to, with the backing on, wrap it around my foam cones. I'll cut off any excess. Now I'm gonna start wrapping it around my foam tree. So I'm gonna pull off one side of the backing, place it on. I'll wrap it as tightly as possible around my cone. I'm gonna cut a straight line on the laminate and then continue to wrap it on the cone. Next, I'll trim the laminate off of the bottom of my cone. I'll leave about 1 centimeter below the foam cone on the bottom. Now I wanted to create a base for this, and Dollar Tree has these wood plaque pieces, so I'm gonna use that as my base. They also have these dowel rods in a pack of 2. So I just used my hacksaw to cut down where I wanted these dowel rods to be. Since they are the same size, I wanted one a little bit longer than the other. Once I get them cut down, I'm gonna use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to add them to my wood pieces. And then I'll put a little bit of faux snow at the base to cover up any extra glue. Let this dry for several hours, then you can come in and hot glue your foam trees to the top of the dowel rods. And here's how these marble trees turned out. On one of my last Dollar Tree shopping trips, I found this house that, of course, I had to make gingerbread. Let me know if you guys are getting sick of this gingerbread trend, or maybe I'll stop, but I just love it so much. This house was $3. It was in the Dollar Tree Plus section. First, I'm gonna take out the candle that's at the bottom because I didn't want to get any spray paint on that. Next, I'm gonna spray it with the color Warm Caramel. Now, when I was spray painting, I had to make sure I got the inside of it because you can see that area. So I did a good job of getting probably 3 coats of spray paint on it. Once that was dry, I used that same white puff paint and I'm just going to do a fun little scallop edge to the roof. And then I just tried to bring out all the details. So I went around the windows, I added in some fun, cute designs, but I just love it. Now with the puff paint, you wanna make sure you let this sit at least several hours to dry. I added back in the candle and here's how it looks. Have you ever wondered what to do with these white trees from Dollar Tree? I'm gonna show you how to make a winter wonderland style tree. So you're gonna need 1 white tree. You're also going to need some of these crystal-y picks. I found these in the holiday section at Dollar Tree. I don't think I've seen these before and I thought they would be really great on my tree. So I'm gonna start by opening up the tree and adding on the legs. Next, I wanted to add those picks. So I cut them down to be a little bit longer than the branches, maybe like 1 or 2 inches longer than my current branches. And I cut them down with just some wire cutters. I'm either gonna wrap them around the trunk of my tree or I'll hot glue them in place. And they're just going to sit on top of my existing branches. I'm gonna keep adding my picks so I have them on each level of my tree. I'm also going to add a pick to the top. Now I'm gonna take it out and spray paint it. This was definitely one where I added and saw what it looked like and then added more spray paint. So I started by just doing quick shots of white spray paint on the top. I wanted it to look like the paint was coming down from the top, almost like snow. Next, I came in with a silver color. This was just a mirrored spray paint I had, and I just kind of sprayed it around the tree. Then I also added in a glitter spray paint, but I felt like it wasn't as glittery as I wanted it to be. So I actually sprinkled on some additional glitter. Now, if you're gonna sprinkle glitter on, make sure you do it when your spray paint is still wet. That's gonna help it adhere to your tree better. Let this sit outside, dry a little bit. What I use for the base is some Dollar Tree burlap fabric. They sell this over in the craft section. Open that up, and then I just pulled it up around my tree to look kind of like a big burlap sack. And then to hold it in place, all I used was a little bit of twine, tied it in a knot, cut off the excess, and here's how it turned out.